Instagram.
He's going out. Holy shit.
On CABC3, the future of broadcasting. With your host, Darnell Duff.
That ball hit hard. Stretch. Austin Jackson back. Looks up. You can. Put it on the board. Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's right. It's the First Row Sports Show. We're going to stop the free-for-all Friday here on CABC3 for a little bit. We're going to talk about some sports. I got Theo Tuckluck in the booth with me here today. How you doing, Theo?
I'm great. Happy Friday, everybody. Good to see everybody. Well, not good to see everybody. Soon it's good to see everybody because we're going live in video style in about a week's time. But, yes, it's Friday. We've got lots to talk about. Let's get right to it, Double D.
Let's start, and let's talk about the 58 and 52 Toronto Blue Jays 5-game winning streak and winners of their 8 of last 9. These Toronto Blue Jays team are on an absolute hot tear right now. They can't be stopped offensively. They're getting some pitching from Drew Hutchison the other day, which was they would have lost that game if their offense didn't bail them out like they have so many times this year. But nonetheless, that's what you need, offense. Edwin Encarnacion hit his 250th home run last year. He's hitting over 400 in 7 days of August so far. This Toronto team is looking really good so far since the acquisition of Price and Tulo and LaTroy Hawkins.
I mean, you have to think about, like we talked about on Wednesday, the atmosphere and the camaraderie that's going on in the bullpen and the dugout and in that locker room for the Toronto Blue Jays, as well as the fan support. It goes without saying, the Blue Jays are hot, like you said, 8 of 9. You know, they're on a 5-game winning streak. They're destroying teams that are looking to get into those wild card positions. It's not like they're playing the barrel of the bottom teams. These Blue Jays are playing like the Blue Jays are supposed to. You're adding great bats. You've added fantastic pitching arms. Now it's time to perform. There's almost no excuse for things to happen in a good way and a positive way for the Blue Jays right now. They're still chasing the Yankees for some weird reason. The Yankees are still winning games. And the Angels are playing the Orioles in this upcoming weekend. So, I mean, there's a potential for our Blue Jays to be in that first wild card position by end of week. Perhaps maybe a couple more games closer to the Yankees. But like we said, they play the Yankees starting on Monday. So it could be one of those series that could potentially bring the Blue Jays closer to the Yankees or show at least Toronto why New York firsthand is winning games still.
They actually start that series with the Yankees tonight.
Oh, my bad, tonight.
R.A. Dickey's going to take to the mound. Talk to me how important this is for the Blue Jays. They got their wins against the Twins and Royals, which is really impressive. The Twins are chasing a playoff spot. The Royals are way ahead of a playoff spot right now, although they have dwindled in the last maybe week or so. Johnny Cueto went to the Royals last week. But, I mean, they're 4.5 behind the Yankees going into tonight. R.A. Dickey's going to take to the mound. He's given up 78 homers in 90 starts since returning to the AL in 2013, and the Toronto Blue Jays in a very hitter-friendly Yankee Stadium. Mark Teixeira has been unbelievable there. Alex Rodriguez says he's poised to hit a home run or two this weekend. But how important is this Game 1 tonight for R.A. Dickey to set the stage for the Toronto Blue Jays? They play him 3 times this weekend and 3 times next weekend.
It's going to be a big deal for R.A. Dickey because most of his wins recently have come at home. But more importantly, can the Toronto Blue Jays hit the ball and give enough offensive support so that if R.A. Dickey does slip up, they still have a chance to win? Thirdly, you have to look at, okay, this is a test for the Blue Jays versus the Yankees because they have 13 games remaining against the Yankees. So that first game is going to be like a set-the-bar kind of game. See where they set up, how do they match up, and I mean it's going to be a Gibbons versus Girardi management, challenge here. Joe Girardi is a great manager. He's done a great thing with the Yankees this year. I mean, we talked about Teixeira, and he could be up there for the AL MVP with Trout and potentially Josh Donaldson at the end of the year. The pitching, I mean, their pitching staff has been a little bit suspect, but for some reason they're still keeping it together. Whereas you've got 4 or 5 great hurlers coming out of Toronto to lead off any game. It's toss-up. I mean, it all depends on how well the bats go in New York and if there's enough run support so that if the Blue Jays and their bullpen have a slip-up, they still have a chance to win.
Well, let's talk about the pitching staff quickly. Let's talk about Drew Hutchison. He gave up 7 earned runs. Well, 7 runs, 4 of them were earned a couple days ago against the Minnesota Twins. But what do you do with a guy like this? He has an ERA that's almost reached 6. Yes, he is 10-2. He's 8-1 on home surface at the Rogers Center. But, I mean, he's given up runs. I mean, if the Toronto Blue Jays weren't leading the majors in runs, who knows? His record reasonably should be under 500.
With an ERA, yes, like close around 6, you'd expect someone to be close to 500. But with the Toronto bats hitting as well as they do, they know they got to give Hutch that run support. And it's a different mentality when Hutch is on the mound compared to Burley or Dickey or now Price, because you expect R.A. Dickey and his knuckleball to keep the scoring low. So whether that's a mindset for the Jays to stop hitting him out of the yard, I don't know. Mark Burley's a seasoned veteran. He knows how to get in and out of trouble. He knows how to mostly get out of trouble lately. The bats say the same thing. I mean, do they need to hit as many home runs or as many runs in when he's on the mound? Maybe it's just something where, okay, the boys, the 9 guys realize, okay, we're playing, Hutch is on the mound. Yeah, he's got a lot of wins, but more importantly, we got to get that many more hits. It's as great as a defense to an offense on any other sport. If your defense lets 27 points on the board, you got to score 28 or 29 to win. The Blue Jays probably use the same kind of mentality. If Hutch lets out 6 or 7 runs, we know we got to score 8 or 9, and that was the case in point in his last start against Minnesota. I mean, the Blue Jays were up 9-3, and you had all the boys, all the bats going flying. And Gibbons probably picked out Hutchie just in the nick of time before it got really, really bad. Because if Minnesota did score a couple more runs and tied that game, who knows what would have happened. So maybe I think it's on Gibbons to say, you know what, now's the time to pull him out, or that's just enough time. I'd be curious to see the stat on how many runs Hutchinson lets in after the 5th inning compared to how many he lets in the first 5. Because maybe it's something that the pitchers are, maybe Mr. Hutchinson is losing control or throwing him too much down the meat of the plate after the late innings.
That's a big question. Is that where you take Hutchinson, you sit him down, you're like, you know what, you're 10-2, I understand that, but it's because the run support you get. Is he a 2 or 3 inning pitcher out of the middle relief? I mean, give the guy 6 innings, starting 6 innings, get him for the 7th and 8th. I mean, he does pitch pretty well from the 1st to 5th, like you said, and then after that, it just seems like it tumbles all down. So is he that middle relief pitcher or long relief pitcher that you give 3, 4, 2 innings?
I think it's something you'll realize if you do make the playoffs, because you have to have a starting 4 rotation and a strong 4 rotation. Right now, there's 5 starting pitchers, potentially 6 with, Mr. Sausage King of Toronto coming back potentially for September if he does get his rehab all finished up. You have to see who's going to be your starting 4 rotation, and if Hutchinson is a lone one out, or if Dickey's that lone one out, then you potentially say, okay, Hutch, you're going to pitch 4 innings. We don't know if you're going to start the 1st inning or you're going to start the 5th inning, but you're going to pitch 4 innings in the next week. Maybe that's a concern. Maybe that's a good concern Toronto may have come September. Who knows?
Is he the new Madison Bumgarner, goes on 3 days rest and then comes into the World Series, pitches 3 innings? And I mean, that's all they needed. All they needed was 3 innings from Madison Bumgarner. Maybe that's all they need because they have Price, they have Dickey. Hopefully they have Stroman. Now, I'm not sure what extent Stroman's going to play, if he's going to be a starter after what he did to his leg. I mean, he said he's healing fine. He's going to tentatively pitch on Wednesday in a rehab assignment on the 21st as well. But, I mean, they have Dickey, they have Burley. They have pitchers that can win ball games. Now it's just up to John Gibbons what he wants to do. Now, Mark Burley is having a very good year, 12-5. He says he will not re-sign with the Blue Jays. No, he's not a trader, everyone. He says he's likely to retire at the end of the year. Is he a Hall of Famer? You remember that perfect game he had about 3 years back with the Chicago White Sox. I think this is a tough decision, but I mean, I don't understand at some point how you keep Mark Burley out of the Hall of Fame.
Well, I tend to just, the way the Cooperstown works is I think you have 10 or 15 years after eligibility to potentially get into Cooperstown, if I'm not correct. So, I mean, I don't see Mark Burley as a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd ballot kind of guy getting the percentage votes he needs right off the hop. You know, is there potential later on in that duration of time for him to get into the Hall? Maybe yes, maybe no. Mark Burley hasn't won a World Series, I don't think, has he?
He has not, no.
And he is a great pitcher. And I'd have to look at his overall career stats and say, okay, how well does he match against players that have gone in already? I mean, you have to look at starting pitchers like Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson, for instance, that just got into the Hall this year. How well does he match up against those players? I don't know. I'm not a big Mark Burley career stats kind of guy. There may be a potential for him to get in those later years, though. I mean, Andre Dawson took a little while to get in, but I don't see, like as a starting pitcher, I think it's a little bit different now than it was 40 years ago to see where and when pitchers, especially clean pitchers, get in and see how well they do fare well in Cooperstown voting.
Well, let's look at Mark Burley's career stats. He's 13-10 last year, 12-5 this year. Career time, he is 211 and 157 with a 3.79 ERA. So, I mean, he's got a lot of wins, more wins than losses, but I guess we'll find out right now. Let's switch topics. Let's stay on the Toronto Blue Jays, but let's talk about Dave Dombrowski. He was released from the Detroit Tigers the other day to apparently pursue other opportunities. Before he got released, he gave David Price to the Toronto Blue Jays in that trade for Daniel Norris. Now, there has been speculation that he will come to the Toronto Blue Jays at season's end when Paul Beeston steps down. Is that going to raise some, eyebrows after giving away a Cy Young pitcher to the team and then going right there at the end of the year?
I don't know if it was a smart business move or a bad business move for both Detroit and Toronto. I don't know what kind of future prospects you might be thinking about, Mr. Dombrowski. I mean, there's how many teams? 30 Major League teams that potentially could need help. The fact that Paul Beeston is leaving at season's end does offer speculation without a doubt. David Price now being in a Toronto uniform, speculation without a doubt. The question is, though, if you sign Dombrowski as a upper official in the Blue Jays organization, do you think that's going to give a better opportunity for the Blue Jays to sign David Price at season's end? That's the question. And if you feel that if it's going to help you out in the long run, great, then do it. Because like I've said, you're probably not going to sign Burley, or you're not going to sign Burley at the end of the year. You aren't probably going to sign R.A. Dickey to anything long-term if you need to, and you're going to see his salary drop considerably. You've traded away a farm that you potentially would have to pay in the next year or two. If you're a smart business person, you try to lock up David Price. You try to lock him up for 3 or 4 years with that money that you would have spent on those other 9 pitchers, and you show your Toronto fans how serious you are maintaining the bats and maintaining the pitching mound. If you don't do that, I mean, everyone says, they're a contender after this year. They're a contender after the following year. They're not going to be contenders unless they have pitching on the mound. And Mr. Anthopoulos has decided that the here and now is most present and most important, which is great, being out of the playoffs for 23 years. But then you don't have to end there. You can look at it from a further standpoint, a little bit future, and say, you know what, we have the opportunity to sign Price and whoever else we need to make sure that mound is strong.
Well, now, do you think there was maybe a three-way text message between Alex Anthopoulos, David Price, and Dombrowski? I mean, Anthopoulos gave some away of the farm. That's going to clear some space. Probably not going to sign Burley, like you said. Dickey's going to get a major pay cut. I mean, is that money going towards Price at the end of the year? Do you think there was text message between the guys or just verbal chats between the guys saying, you know what, we're going to give some away, some of the money now, so next year at the season's end, we're going to give you the money you deserve?
Who's to say? I mean, like, I've had lots of conversations when I'm bartending to senior officials, and they don't really say too much. But at the same time, you know what? Guys can quickly say a quick word to a player or to an agent saying, listen, we're freeing up some space now so we can make him a part of the future. And if they can do that or they can make that understanding under some verbal agreement, of course it's not bound in stone, word solid as an oak kind of thing, but it at least entices that agent and that player to say, you know what, as much as we're trying to look for big bucks in a big major market city, Toronto is a big major market city. It's just in Canada, not in the States. And it's not America's pastime. It's not Canada's pastime. It's in Toronto. So, you know, if there's some three-way talk, four-way talk, perhaps. I mean, it wouldn't be stupid if you didn't start planting that seed now.
Well, before we get on to some other Toronto team, the one Toronto team that, well, just hasn't done that well in the last decade or so. Let's talk about Alex Anthopoulos, AA in Toronto. Is he worthy of a contract extension after all he's done, leading back a few years ago when he got Mark Burley, Jose Reyes? I mean, yes, Jose Reyes maybe was a bust in Toronto, but without Jose Reyes, you're not getting Troy Tulowitzki. You're not getting a 300-plus batter. Is he worthy of a contract extension, even if they don't make the playoffs this year? Because we talked about if they don't make the playoffs this year, some players are gone. They don't have much farm. It's going to be tough for the Blue Jays to contend in the next few years.
Alex Anthopoulos has somebody to answer to. Everybody always has someone else to answer to. And I think he was given that permission or decided upon himself to make the present the most important timing for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I think it was a wise move for this year. I mean, they were almost there. They're almost at the top of the hill. And what else did they need? They found it. You mentioned Burley and Reyes. Call them busts if you will, but like you said, they were pivotal pieces of the future of the Blue Jays to the present, as well as making trades for other players that they could have used. Reyes, great guy in the locker room with all the boys. I'm pretty sure he had a pretty good relationship with everybody. But you've just made the Toronto Blue Jays that much better with Troy Tulowitzki. Mark Burley was a great signing because, he was a veteran pitcher, potentially to be that person to bring up the farm. Now the farm is gone. Now they realize Burley is about to retire. I don't think that was a bad move whatsoever. I mean, I think it's what's happening is they're reshaping the identity of the Toronto Blue Jays to say, okay, we've had some pieces that have worked. We've had some pieces that haven't worked. Let's see if we can reestablish what Blue Jays power means, and they've done that.
Well, Game 1 and Game 3 of the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees, the 58 and 52 surging Toronto Blue Jays 5-0 and 8 of their last 9 against the 61 and 46 New York Yankees. R.A. Dickey with his 6-10 record and his 4.06 ERA will take on Nathan Eovaldi, who's been phenomenal for the New York Yankees. 11-2, slightly higher ERA at a 4.30, but that is a very hitter-friendly New York stadium. So first pitch of that one, 7:07 Eastern, Sportsnet and Sportsnet 590 The Fan. You've been listening to the First Row Sports Show on CABC3, the future of broadcasting.